Welcome back, college baseball fans. We're back here for another Saturday morning live show. I'm your host, Mark Garland. I've got two of my great hosts with me today. I've got Jared Perkins. How we doing, Jared?
Hanging in there. Another
Hanging
weekend. Watching all my pick'ems fail. So
in a chaotic games of baseball.
I'm just going to apologize to all teams. If I pick you, you're probably going to lose a series. So apologize in advance.
You're giving other teams just wonderful news whenever you pick against them.
Yeah.
Like, sweet. This is going to be great for us.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And Hunter Shelton, how we doing, Hunter?
Good, man. Good. Something I'm sure we'll talk about as this rolls on. Defense, not spectacular yesterday. You can really start to feel like the pressure of these games, like wins and losses, really starting to matter. Like it's getting to some of these teams.
Yeah, because like pitching wasn't bad, but the defense seemed like it did not back up any of these guys yesterday. It was a rough day. Let's go to one that actually had some pitching and defense, though. The UNC Duke series right now, tied 1-1. Both games are 3-1. Each one has won a game there. Kind of insane, Jared, that UNC could not score yesterday, but Duke has really just been competitive. They're hanging on for dear life. Mascara's got these guys like really trying to claw their way into the tournament somehow. They're right on the outside right now, but a good win at home against Duke, or a good win against UNC.
Yeah, I mean, 9-14 in conference is tough to get yourself into the tournament. They really have to go on a run. But I think you got to be happy if you're Corey Mascara, just the performance of your team in your first year, right? You lose basically everybody. I went to the Clemson-Virginia game, and it was like watching Duke 2.0, basically, because they're all former Duke players, went and followed Pollard to Virginia. And Mascara has done a great job building this team. They've been super impressive, especially Aiden Weaver on Friday nights has been just electric. Last night, you get Peter Lemke going 7 2/3, 1 earned run, absolutely dominating a North Carolina offense that really went off against Georgia Tech. So you have to give some props here, just because it's just been cool to see. And the offense has been showing up when it needs to. They scored just enough to win as their entire pitching staff shut down North Carolina. What's crazy about Lemke's stat line is he only had one strikeout in that 7 2/3 inning. So
pitch to contact.
Yeah, pitching everything to contact, and then Ben Dean comes out of the bullpen, strikes out 4 in an inning in the third. So he struck out every batter he faced. So it's just, again, Duke's the style of play. They're not going to like hit a ton of home runs. They're really missing Cider Cannon since they lost him, but steal a ton of bags. They kind of almost have that bird ball style in some sense, where they're going to try to make a ton of contact, find ways to win, and it's worked. I mean, they have a winning record this year overall. Conference play hasn't been what you want, but I'm excited to see how this program grows under Mascara.
Yeah, I believe that he's going to be a pitching and defense guy. Like that's what he's been.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's been built on. He's been a pitching coach. I think that's what you're going to see from Duke moving forward, and that's fine. That ballpark's built for it. You can do pitching and defense in that ballpark and in the ACC and really be successful. So big win for them at home, like one of the statement wins of this year for them as they try to get back into this thing. I think it's going to take a lot more effort than they have, but it's good to see them fighting. And again, UNC, the question for me has been the offense. Like, it just disappears some weekends. Like, even the 3 runs on Friday night shouldn't have been enough in an ACC game, but it was enough because the pitching was so good for them. But man, it's going to be interesting here as they try to take out this one and win the game 3. Let's move over, Hunter, to the series that's already finished between Alabama and Tennessee. Alabama takes the first one. It wasn't pretty. It was an ugly game at Lindsey Nelson. They win 12-8. Then they get smoked in the next 2, 11-1 and then 11-4. This really could be the turning point for Tennessee's season, as it could be the turning point downward for Alabama's season.
Yeah, I think I'm officially back on Tennessee. Like I think this team is starting to play really good baseball at the right time of the year. They have been one of the few teams that has been able to consistently roll out the same 3 guys on the mound, even though Tegan Kuntz had a 1 weekend stint in the bullpen. But he was tremendous in game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday. 8-inning complete game, 3 hits, no earned, 1 walks, 9 Ks. And in the 4 starts after that bullpen demotion, if you want to call it a demotion since coming back, 23 2/3, 3 earned, 5 walks, 27 Ks. So he's been tremendous. And then Evan Blanco has been just an absolute anchor in that game 3 role for them. And then you look at some of these bats that are really starting to turn it around. Like, I know Levi Clark is still hitting below the Mendoza line, I believe, but he's starting to hit a few homers. It looks like he's having better at-bats. Blaine Brown had 2 home runs yesterday. He's a guy that's really struggled in SEC play as well. Garrett Wright has been unbelievable after missing the first few weeks of the season, and you can say the same about Blake Grimmer. So I just think that, considering the road ahead for this Tennessee team, which is at Kentucky next weekend, Texas at Lindsey Nelson, and then you go to Oklahoma to finish it out. Like, getting 2 against Bama at home this weekend is just really kind of, pumping a little bit of oxygen into this team, letting them know that like that 13 win mark in SEC play, should be good enough. Or, at this point, you think you're going to get there. So I just think there's some good energy with this Tennessee team right now. And that's pretty crazy considering, some of the stuff we were saying about them just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and honestly, even though he had a bad start on Thursday, Cam Appenzeller or Friday night, Cam Appenzeller has been really good for them. So you're talking about the really good pitching staff. And I said all along, I'm like, if they can get some offense to go with Henry Ford, all of a sudden this team could go. And that's what you're seeing as you were talking about.
Yeah, and Henry Ford's been okay. He's
been great.
Hitting the ball in the gaps, but it's not been maybe as advertised. But some of these other secondary, tertiary pieces that have really started to pick up the pace down the stretch, it's a good sign.
Yeah, guys like Manny Marion also and Reese Chapman like getting up and going, like these senior leaders that they need to get going for them. All of a sudden, this team feels like it's going the right direction, and it doesn't feel like the kind of disastrous season it was almost turning into a few weeks ago, where we were really looking down this team. But huge, like that turnaround against Mississippi State, and all of a sudden this team's rolling again. Man, you could see 13, 14 wins is not even out of the possibility. They could get to 500 even at 15 wins. I mean, if they take it to Oklahoma in that final weekend. So looking forward to that big turn for Tennessee. On the other side of that, Alabama now at 10-11 in conference. Like they have some winnable games ahead of them, but it doesn't look like the host team that we were all talking about a couple weeks ago. This team seems like it's going the wrong direction, Hunter.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like when you watch Bama, like Tyler Fay, Zane Adams, Miles Upchurch, again, talking about like these consistent weekend rotations, like Tyler Fay has been, tremendous. It's maybe not like all SEC stuff, but he's giving you the, 5-6 innings every week. He's going to scatter a few hits and a few runs, but that's a guy that you can rely on. That's a level of reliability that most teams don't have from their Friday night guy. But like we've talked about this a lot. Like it's been a little bit of a struggle for Justin LeBron in SEC play. They've had to rely on the likes of Brady Neal and Bryce Fowler, who have carried them to wins at points throughout SEC play when they were on their hot streak. But are those the guys that you're going to be able to, rely on as these games get, the stakes increase and, you've really got to try and start chugging along, like you said, Mark, I think we all thought that there was going to be a Tuscaloosa regional a couple of weeks ago. And now, I don't have Bama's remaining schedule in front of me, but, you're going to have to see a little bit of improvement here down the stretch.
Yeah, they're going to have to get to 15 wins. And I mean, that means they're going to have to go 5-4 of the next 9 games here in SEC play. It's going to be tough. They got to do it, though, if they want to host. I mean, I think 15 is going to be the cut line this year, especially with some of these higher end Big 10 and Big 12 teams like trying to push for these host positions. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with the ACC team stepping up as well. So I'm interested, but it's going to be great here for the last 3 weeks of the season. But for the weekend, Alabama and Tennessee are done. Arkansas is taking the first 2 at Missouri. Hasn't looked great, but again, Arkansas needed these wins. Jared, they're big wins. I mean, even if they don't look good, like they beat Missouri on Friday or on Thursday, didn't look great. They win last night. They just need one more to sweep the series, and all of a sudden they're at 12 wins in conference.
Yeah, there are 12 wins in conference, 30 overall. They're starting to look like a host team, right, in some sense. So they can kind of continue to roll through the rest of the SEC schedule. And like we talk about this all the time, but baseball is like about getting on a hot streak. Like we talk about Tennessee. Now they're all of a sudden on a hot streak, and they're looking like they're definitely a top 25 team, one of maybe a contender for Omaha, just depending on what they can do. And so Arkansas, like they've gone through their cold streaks, but if they can get on a hot streak here to end the season, like it's looking good for them in the playoffs. So they did what they had to do against a Missouri team, right? Like Cole Gibler looked great in one of those games last night. They hit enough. They put 6 runs in one of the games and won 6-0, 10 hits. So yeah, they're kind of turning things into what you want to see from Arkansas. I still don't know what they are, but hey, you take the wins when you can get them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do. Just go out there and win, I guess, and beat whoever's in front of you, and that's how you do it. Do I think that they should be a host team? No, I don't believe that they're a host team. But if they keep winning, there's going to be hard to keep them off that board because those spots are going to be wide open, especially in SEC. If they get over 15, 16 wins, all of a sudden you're like, maybe they are that kind of team. I don't know, but it's a big wins for them, even though they are, not pretty. They take the wins as they can get them. BYU and Arizona played 2 already as well. BYU takes the second game last night, 5-1. They lose the first one 0-6. This BYU team is almost over 500 though. So keep an eye on this team as they are right now even at 10-10 in conference, which I don't think anybody had them. I think everybody had them either finishing 13th or 14th in conference. They're close to breaking that, 500 record. and sitting in the middle of the conference where they might be finding their way slowly on the bubble. I think that they're out still because the rest of their conference and their non-conference is bad and their RPI is bad. But if they keep winning games and they stay well over 500, it's going to be hard to keep this team out of the tournament also. West Virginia and Cincinnati are suspended in the 12th right now, so it's the bottom of the 12th in that game when it resumes today. Another game that's been rained out also and is going to play 2 today is Georgia and Ole Miss. We're excited for that one. Hunter, anything in that series you want to touch on before, since we haven't got to see any of it yet, but we're excited for it?
Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty classic. Like, these are two teams that have relied on, the long ball quite a bit. Georgia obviously has been a little bit more consistent on that front than Ole Miss has, but I really like this Ole Miss, like the frontline 5 of Hunter Elliott, Cade Townsend, Hudson Calhoun, Taylor Rabe, and Walker Hooks. I don't when we get into postseason time and you're really shortening, the pitching staff and the lineups. Like, I feel really good about where Ole Miss is on that front. If they only have to send out 5 or 6 guys, and Will Libbert was someone who started Sundays for the first few weeks in non-conference play for them. He has, obviously gone back into the bullpen as of late, but I think Ole Miss is another team that's obviously, playing really good baseball at the right time. The metrics look awesome for them. They've had some big series wins. Can they contain the Georgia offense? That's going to be the storyline for any series that Georgia is in. It'll be really interesting to see. Are we going to get like a ton of high scoring games like we saw with the Georgia and Arkansas finale last week? I don't know. But I think this and Texas A&M and Florida, that's definitely the 2 series to watch in the SEC this weekend.
Yeah, to me, I think that the doubleheader almost hurts Ole Miss more just because I think that there's more arms for Georgia, and I think that they can go into this with more arms from the bullpen. But I like it. I think it's going to be a great series. I think both these teams are host teams. I think that they both played their way into that. It just depends on which one probably is going to get a national seed. I lean harder towards Georgia. But, again, I like both these teams moving forward. Texas A&M at Florida. Jared, Aiden King, that's the story, right? Like, he just shuts this team down, a team that's been red hot in SEC play as of late. 8 innings pitched, just 4 hits, 2 runs. The top 8 hitters for the Gators all get hits in the win also, which is another side of the game that we needed to see for Florida. This is a tough one, but big job for Florida as they're trying to play their way into a national seed as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this kind of at length. It feels like for this Florida team to be good, they need Aiden King and Liam Peterson every single night. And they need the offense to show up and score runs, right? And then so that's what they did last night. Caden McDonald went yard. They had doubles from Kyle Jones, Brendan Lawson, Blake Sire, Cade Curlin, Caden McDonald himself as well. So again, you get that kind of performance from Aiden King, goes 8 innings, 2 earned, 6 strikeouts, absolutely dominant. There's a reason he's the Friday night ace for this team. I know they tried to put Liam Peterson out there at Friday night early on in the season, but Aiden King's the guy. And he's going to most likely get you a game 1 win. Shane Sado didn't look great on the other side of the ball. He went 8 hits, 3 earned runs, went only 3 2/3 innings. So bullpen did pretty good outside of Luke Billings for Texas A&M. So they kind of kept them in the game for most of it until really late in this one. But I'm not too worried about Texas A&M here. I think they still have a chance to win this series, especially if Liam Peterson doesn't have his ace stuff going into tonight. But I really like this Florida team. Florida's doing kind of what Florida does, right? They all of a sudden get hot at the end of the year, and next thing you know, they make a run into the postseason. And so, yeah, if the offense can continue to click for them, I think that's going to be the biggest question mark for them in the rest of the season. But you take this game 1 against Texas A&M, who's now ranked, I think, 4th or 5th on our top 25. You got to be pretty happy if you're the Gators.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to play their way into it, but it feels very much like a nostalgic Florida Gator team that goes 2-2 during the week, where they lose the midweek, and they win 2 on the weekend and win the series, and all of a sudden you're like, now they're a host team, even though they're going 2-2 every week because of what they have on the weekends. Scoring runs was the big thing I wanted to see, and the fact that 8 of the 9 hitters go out and get hits was the biggest part, I think, for this Florida Gator team, and getting into that bullpen early now. So now you're talking about a lot of those big arms for Texas A&M have already thrown. You wanted to see that if you're a Florida Gator fan. I mean, taking 2 of 3, taking the first one on Friday is big, especially with Aiden King. Now, if you can get a Liam Peterson start today, that, the big enigma, if he can go out there and get you the strikeouts and not the walks, all of a sudden you're looking at a series win. So big for Florida to win last night. Oklahoma at Auburn. Hunter, Oklahoma kind of hung in them there. Eric Guerra, though, 3 hits, 3 RBIs, a bomb, huge victory there. Andres Alvarez still looks the part of a Friday night ace for this Auburn team. Auburn is tough, man, especially at Plainsman Park.
Yeah, the way this season is trending for Auburn is just super positive because coming into the year, we were all talking about how good we thought this offense was going to be. You know, the sophomore pop coming back from Rembert and Freilich and all those guys. And then, you know, the early storyline for them was Jake Marciano and this pitching staff really coming into form. And then it was Andres Alvarez making his jump from the midweek to the weekend, and he has been super consistent. It's been an absurd season for him. And now we're back to, you know, maybe underrating the Auburn offense a little bit. And, you know, like Chris Rembert's been solid, but it's not been amazing. Freilich has been okay in SEC play, but it's the McCrane brothers. It's Ethan Bingaman. It's Eric Guevara. Like, guys that we did not anticipate being like key pieces for this lineup this season who are like really, really producing. And then you come back with this, you know, top-notch rotation that is just delivering like every single start. Like, you know, Jake Marciano was probably the SEC Pitcher of the Year frontrunner alongside Ruger Riojas the first few weeks of the season. And now it's like, okay, like, you know, when it's crunch time for this Auburn team, like, are you sending him out? Are you sending Alvarez out? Alex Petrovich has been awesome. Like
Sanders,
they've got a few like really good high leverage pieces in the bullpen too. So like, you know, Auburn is super deep on both fronts. They're playing good defense. Haven't even talked about Bub Terrell hardly at all this season too. Like another guy that we, you know, thought was in for a big year, and it's been good, not great. So I just, you know, the sky's the limit for this Auburn team. You know, if they can finally get past like that super regional hump, you know, I could easily see this team getting to Omaha. And then on the Oklahoma side of things, you know, it's kind of been a similar story. They've beaten the teams that they're clearly better than, have struggled against the teams that look like a step above them. Consistency has evaded LJ Mercurius as the season has gone on. And now we're looking at another high leverage start for Cam Johnson. Are we going to get the 6 innings, 12 Ks? Are we going to get the 1 inning, you know, 5-6 walks? We don't really know. Like that, this Oklahoma bullpen is not necessarily built for 2-3 games a weekend where you've got to, you know, find a way to fill 6 innings. So these next 2 games will be big for the Sooners.
Yeah, the bullpen's young also for the Sooners, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of young arms, and they've been used a lot this season, which has been tough on them. And I think it's gotten a little bit better, but at the same point, they're not built for that, like you said. And I think that Auburn takes care of business today. I think that they're just too good. They haven't even reached their full potential, as you mentioned. Like this team could be even better than where they are now, and we have them as a top 8 team. Like that's how good this Auburn team could be. If they get going offensively to their full ability, they're an Omaha team to me. And so I really like them. I think Oklahoma's also taken some steps back. Well, they've been winning the series, like I said, against teams that are worse than them. They've really struggled against teams that are equal or above them. Like it really feels like they are not there at that same level. So they're going to have to try to figure out how to win one this weekend. I don't know if they do it. Auburn's really tough at home. Wake Forest at Georgia Tech. Jared, this was a great game. And Wake Forest knows that they're trying to push the gas pedal and kind of trying to really pressure them way into this thing. But they lose this one 5-6. The big turnaround was Jaron Anvincula hitting that home run in the 5th that kind of turned the tide for the Yellow Jackets here as they win this one. They beat Chris Lavonis. That not a lot of people are doing that. That's a tough one to go out there and beat him. Huge win for Georgia Tech. They seem to be rolling again after that series weekend loss to UNC.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Like, I was like kind of worried about them because they went down 4-1 early to Wake Forest. But again, you're facing Chris Lavonis. He's probably going to go out and dominate for the first couple of innings. Usually he does it for 5 or 6 innings, but they were able to get to him in the 5th. Like you mentioned, Avincula hits that huge home run that really puts Georgia Tech on top there. And again, we've had questions about the pitching staff for Georgia Tech. I mean, McKee was okay. He went 5 innings, 3 earned runs, but the bullpen really kind of saved them, right? Brett Barfield went out there, threw a clean inning. Patel, since he's moved back to the bullpen, has dominated. He went 3 innings, struck out 3, only gave up 1 earned run. Like that, having Patel the kind of piggyback McKee every Friday night, it's like you almost have a guaranteed game 1 win is because your offense is going to put up like a 10 spot basically. So yeah, I think it was good. The offense wasn't fantastic again in this one, but again, like you mentioned, you're facing Lavonis, you're facing Evan Jones, you're facing Zach Johnson. Like Wake Forest has got good arms, and so they were able to kind of, for the most part, and you say like keep the Georgia Tech offense at bay. They still gave up 6 runs, right? So it's just like that's considered keeping the Georgia Tech offense at bay in some sense. So yeah, I think you're not worried. Like Von Lackey went 2 for 4, Burris went 2 for 5. Like the Yellow Jackets are going to hit. I think like they ran into just a juggernaut of a rotation in North Carolina and just could not get anything going against them. So I think they're going to take this series pretty handedly, and I'm not too worried about them in the long term.
Yeah, I think that it's a good thing for you, the Yellow Jackets. I also like the fight from Wake Forest. It kind of shows me that they do belong right on that fringe of that 25 through 32, where they could play with the big dogs. Like they have
They're
the
a
arms.
postseason team for sure.
They're a postseason team, yeah. And I think that a few weeks ago that we were questioning what this team was, and I feel that they're starting to find themselves a little bit more. Lewis hitting that home run in the first kind of gave you like, okay, now we have like we found ourselves a little bit. We've got some offense going. We got the arms. I think that they're going to be a really tough 2 seed for somebody down the stretch here.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really tough for somebody here. Let's talk about Texas, Hunter. They go out and they beat Vanderbilt. They're up 11-0 at one point. Aiden Robbins hit 2 home runs. A-Rod gets back. He has 3 hits and a home run. The 1 through 4 hitters of Texas go 9 for 17 with 6 RBI. Like, that's what you want to see if you're a Texas fan. And Volantis is just dominant. They get late home runs from Reynolds and Mancini there for Vanderbilt, but just a dominant performance by Texas on the road.
Yeah, in my notes here, the top thing I wrote was this was a my guys are better than your guys kind of game, and that's just kind of the meat of it here for Texas. Like Aiden Robbins is just on another planet right now. It's his 3rd multi-homer game in the last 7 games. Carson Tinney is perhaps the hottest hitter in the SEC at the moment. Let's see, 16 hits in his last 10 games. That's 7 home runs and 4 doubles for him. It was okay at the beginning of the season, but he has really turned things in to another gear now. Like we've got a freshman in Anthony Pack who's hitting 3rd in this lineup. Now you've got Adrian Rodriguez back to go with guys like Timo Becerra and Casey Borba. And like, oh, by the way, like here's Dylan Volantis, who has now finally made this transition to Friday nights. And it's just like, oh my God. And then like now they get to come back with Riojas and Luke Harrison. And, like we've talked ad nauseum about how good this Texas team can be. And like watching that game, like they really roughed up Connor Fennell. And like now for Vandy, pitching is already super thin. Now you just got to try and throw something at the wall and see what sticks. And like this Vandy resume, guys, like I don't know. Like that's really I'm not sure. Like what happens if Vandy gets swept by Texas this weekend? Maybe wins a game against Alabama and wins the series against Mizzou and South Carolina. Is that enough? I don't think so, but like it may be. Like, do they get that SEC benefit of the doubt? Like, it's going to be a very, very fascinating case for the committee.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Even if they get swept here, now they're 9-12. They still have Mizzou and South Carolina, where if they go in somehow, if they can win 6 of those games, they're a 500 team in SEC play. And it's really hard to hold out those teams, especially and their RPI is going to be very high. I mean, it's going to be probably the highest at-large bid ever that we've had in the modern era of baseball if they get in. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to get in. And I think the committee should take a long, hard look at it because I don't believe that this is a tournament team. But, man, I mean, outside Fennell on Fridays, they struggle. And the fact is that they got beat up. Like, this tells me that they're not with those top-tier teams. They've won some big games, but they've also lost some games that they really were never in. And this felt like that kind of loss where they were just never in that game. I feel like Texas sweeps this weekend. I think Texas is just the better team. And like you said, our guys are better than your guys. That's exactly what it was. The whole game until the end there. Let's talk a little bit here about Purdue and USC, Jared. What a weird game. Like we said, hey, this is the premier series this weekend in the Big Ten where these 2 teams are fighting probably for that 3rd spot in the tournament. So this is a big one here for both these teams. Purdue loses 3-4 at USC. Great start for Mason Edwards. He gave up 3 early, and then he kind of slowed himself down a little bit. USC scores 2 in the 5th or in the 6th inning, and one of them was by a throwing error with guys on 1st and 3rd and 2 outs. They made an error there, and Purdue loses that game 4-3. Tough loss for Purdue on the road, but USC kind of need this get right.
Yeah, I mean, Mason Edwards, I feel like every time he has a bad start, he still strikes out double digit. When I saw him at Maryland, it was like cold and rainy. He still struck out 11. He strikes out 12. He walks 5, so that's kind of the big issue. And that command and control is not usually a massive issue for Mason Edwards, but he has had a couple games where he's like gotten 4 or 5 walks in the game. So goes 5 innings, 3 earned, 5 walks, 12 strikeouts, though, 107 pitches. So you get the start that you kind of need at him. The bullpen was fantastic for USC. They shut down Purdue completely between Velasquez, Madsen, and Johnson, no runs. So, yeah, I mean, I think that like this Purdue team is definitely a postseason team. I think they still maybe have a chance to win the series because I feel like USC always takes that Friday night game. And then after that, it's kind of question mark. Like Grant Goval has been hit or miss for a little bit now. He was dominant to start the year. The bullpen has been questionable for USC. Even when I saw them play against Maryland, the bullpen struggled a little bit. So that Edwards game, I think the bullpen, the USC had like a 10-1 lead or something, and they almost gave it up and lost that first game to Maryland. So my questions are, marks are still getting around the USC offense. Can it do enough to help carry this team through the postseason? And to me, it's like Purdue, I think, has a chance to win these next 2 games still. It just depends on the bats and if they can shut down the USC lineup.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't get after the bullpen at all. Like, they didn't get into that USC bullpen at all after they got Edwards out of the game. I thought, okay, if they're still in this thing, or if it's a tie ball game or close, like, they have a chance of getting in there. And then they just didn't do much. And I think that's the big difference maker. Had they been able to put more pressure on that bullpen, I'd have a little bit more faith. Like, I've been beating the Purdue drum saying that this is a tournament team. This is a tournament team. Trying to promote this team, saying, hey, take a look at these guys. And they're right there. I mean, USC is a very good team, and at home to be right there in that baseball game. But if you're Purdue, you got to go win that baseball game, and throwing it away with an error there, that feels like it's just a kick in the butt right there. I'm hopeful.
Does the Big Ten get 5 teams in?
That's the problem we keep looking at, is how many teams do they actually get in? Like, where are they actually at? Because I think that 4 is the max. I don't think you're going to get 5, but the bubble's really murky. It's like, do you want to take a Purdue team that's going to end up with 18, 19 wins in the Big Ten over a Vanderbilt team that might get 15 wins, but 6 of those might be against South Carolina and Mizzou? Like, I don't know where you put it. I don't know where that line's going to be. I mean, I think that's what you're going to have to look at if you're the committee. What kind of side are you taking? And are you taking less Big 12 teams? Cincinnati currently is sitting in 11th place in the Big 12 at 8-10. If they don't get 500, even with their RPI and their overall record, do you take that team in? Like, that bubble's going to be really tough for the committee this year.
So. Well, even Michigan now is 11-8 in the Big Ten, and they're 26-16 overall. They've won 4 straight. So, like, is Michigan all of a sudden making a case for themselves? I don't know.
They were down 3 in the 9th and came back to win that game with a walk-off bomb. Like, right there. Like, it's going to be interesting to see down the stretch. I'm going to be very intrigued. And who knows what's going to happen in the Big Ten tournament? Like, somebody could go through and win that thing with how many teams are at the top of this thing. Do I think it's going to be UCLA? Probably. But if they stumble, one of these other teams is going to go through it. Like, UCLA struggles against Sacramento State last night, and they get the win. But, I don't know, man. The bubble's just going to be an interesting one. Talking about bubble, though, Florida State clearly not on the bubble. We think that they're in, but then they go down to Stanford and just get embarrassed offensively. Like, they score 3 in the 3rd and don't do anything else. The bullpen for Stanford holds them to 1 hit. Hunter, 1 hit from a Florida State lineup after the bullpen. Like, 6 innings of bullpen work for Stanford. Not historically a great bullpen this year. Not really great arms. And they stopped Florida State to 1 hit. Like, that's unacceptable if you're a Florida State fan thinking this is a national seed. This is not a national seed team right now.
Yeah, this was the last game that I caught the last few innings of before I packed it in for the evening last night. And, like, Trevor Moore looked fantastic. Give him credit. He had a 2-inning save to close things out. And it was, I don't know, to me, it just kind of felt like one of those games. Like, I still think, despite what a lot of coaches have said about, like, making that trip from Tallahassee to Palo Alto, like, as someone who has never done that, I obviously can't speak to, like, what that does, like, what kind of toll that takes in your body, especially as, like, a 3-game series goes on. But, I think going on the road and winning anywhere is always going to be tough. And like you said, Luke Lavin had a 2-run double. Eric Gion had a 2-run single, and that was all the offense Stanford needed. Like, Wes Mendez was solid, gave up 4 over 6 innings. You would think normally, considering like what we've seen from Florida State in the past, like that would be good enough. But no, I mean, it'll be interesting. We'll talk about Cal as well, but like these West Coast ACC teams have not quit despite the seasons once again, not really going their way.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting. I mean, no Stutzer in the lineup, and we already know no Bailey. All of a sudden, this Florida State seems like it just doesn't have that pop. It doesn't have that guy that's going to go through and get that big hit for you right now. They got to find somebody. Good test for them the next 2 days at Stanford. As Stanford just doesn't give up, like you said. Mike New at Cal and then Esker at Stanford. They're not going to give up. They're going to make you earn every single win. So big wins for both those teams this weekend. Let's talk about Texas State here, going to Coastal, Jared. Big win for Coastal. I mean, they look the part. They just doesn't, like, it's not flashy. Bryce Estep goes out there and gives the offense for all the Chanticleers would need. And Luke Jones silences the bats of Texas, holding them to just 2 hits over 6 innings. Like, this is a Texas State lineup that can hit. 2 hits over 6 is not going to do it. Now Texas State is very quickly falling out of the opportunity to be able to be in the tournament.
Yeah, to me, it's like for even a shot at the tournament, they needed to go 500 in the Southern Miss Coastal back-to-back series because, like, after this, they have Marshall, Arkansas State, South Alabama, like none of those series, even if they swept out all three, are really going to like make a push for them to be a tournament team. They'd have to go and win the Sun Belt Conference Championship basically if they want a chance, right? They're 9-10 in conference now. I mean, they're 26-16 overall. They've had some good non-con wins, like on midweeks against UTSA and a few others, and it's just hard because like they won that series they swept Louisiana, and I thought for sure like this team was going to be a tournament team, and they just have not been able to do anything against Coastal and Southern Miss. And so they got 2 more games against Coastal. Like they could win the series. If they win a series against Coastal, do they all of a sudden become a bubble team? I think so. Like Coastal's been playing really well, but they're going to run into Cam Fluke on Sunday. I know he's coming back from injury, but you know,
innings.
Yeah, he'll throw 2 innings, but still, you've got to face Cam Fluke, which is never easy, even if he's just coming back from injury. But on the other hand, for Coastal, like, man, this team's doing what they do every year in the Sun Belt, right? Dominant, 16-3 in conference, or 29-12 overall. Like, we had questions about Coastal all year long, and they are just finding ways to win baseball games. They're hitting 266 as a team, and they're still scoring enough runs to win baseball games. And when you hit 266 as a team, you'd think your pitching staff would be dominating, but they got a 5.01 ERA as a team. So, like, they're not dominating on either side of the ball, but yet they're still finding ways to win games. And, like, you can't knock it. We talk about this with Boston College all the time, right? You look at the stat lines, and it's just like, what is this team? Are they even that good? But they keep winning games. And how do you punish a team for winning baseball games?
Yeah, I saw a stat. They're like 14-2 in 1 and 2 run ball games, which is like the unrealized wins. And it's insane. They just keep finding ways to win. Like, it's not pretty, but they do it. And that's what you have to do if you're a good team. Like, being all the injuries and everybody out and you're trying to get healthy. If this team gets healthy and they get Cam Fluke back on Fridays, like that all of a sudden turns into a very dangerous 2 seed. Do I think they should host? No. Do I think that they're being a scary 2 seed? Absolutely. They're somebody you do not want to see, especially if they get put in the Chapel Hill Regional. Like, that would be an interesting one to see them in UNC. So, but I think this is a good team.
I was going to say it's crazy that they like don't hit for 7 innings, and then all of a sudden they come back and win every game.
Yeah. It's like, oh, but they get the big hit. Like, they don't get a lot of hits. They're like, oh, we got 6 hits, but we scored 6 runs because we had a walk and then we hit a double and we scored a run. Like,
yeah,
they do it in the big spots. Like, that's what you have to do if you're a good team, though, is find those spots and get those hits. Like, don't leave guys on base. Give you opportunities. Team that did leave some guys on base last night, Hunter. LSU loses this one in extras to Mississippi State. Like, it felt like, okay, they start off the game, they scored 3 on some singles, and they felt like they did some backside hitting. It's like, okay, this is what Jay Johnson was asking for. Give me some good at-bats. The pitching, though, like the Case and Evans scratch, like, really put them in a bind. Now you're talking about 11 innings that they had to use the entire bullpen out there and go out there and try to get this thing. Mississippi State walks this one off of the Milwaukee home run there in the 11th. Like, boy, it's getting heavy and hard there for LSU. This is not easy.
Yeah, like backbreaker, like backbreaker of all backbreakers, that game. Like, Mississippi State has gotten swept at home twice. And like for LSU, you lose Jake Brown, who has been your most consistent glue guy. You lose Cooper Moore, who has, been a consistent starter for you when healthy. And then like Case and Evans gets scratched before, you're like, man, like what are we supposed to do? And then they go out and they punch State in the mouth. And like, this was the worst start of the year for Thomas Valinkis. And, the Miss State had a few miscues that, allowed LSU to build a little bit of a lead early. And like, you knew with this bullpen that it was going to be tough to, shut down the State offense for an entire game, but they were so close. And the play where they didn't give Stephen Milam the out at second base, because, his foot was off the bag and he was already making the transition by the time the ball hit his glove. But like, how many times does that happen where they still give the guy the out at second base? Like that, to me, I was kind of like, like it hurt. And then Ryder Woodson, who has been, super clutch his entire college career, comes through. State had a bunch of clutch plays late. Stephen Milam also, to his credit, made a great play to send the game into extras. And then James Nunnally in left field, I believe it was the 10th inning, made a great diving catch with the bases loaded to keep LSU off the board. And then Kevin Maluski, who I believe is still hitting sub 200 and like 60% of his hits are home runs, just comes through and just whacks one and just like absolutely kills LSU. And yeah, I mean, we all know how good of a coach Jay Johnson is. He's arguably the best in this sport. Like, I just cannot imagine how much this season must be eating at him. He's tried to pull levers, push buttons, bench guys. Guys like Cerna and Rucker and Simpson are playing way more, and like they're actually producing a little bit. And you're so close to finally getting like Like a win last night, okay, say you find a way to win this series this weekend, maybe they do go on a run and, the metrics somehow are good enough for them to get into the tournament. But the way that game finished yesterday, to me, that's it.
Yeah, it really looked tough. I mean, and you talk about pushing all the buttons and trying. He tried 4 different guys at third base last night, and none of them got a hit. Like,
Yeah.
he's literally doing anything he can. He's like, hey, somebody give me something. Like, go out there and please. And they're just not getting enough production. I mean, that's just the plain and simple part of it, is they're just not getting consistent production from anybody really throughout the lineup, other than Jake Brown, and now he's out. Like, your most consistent producer is gone for the season.
And
so
the numbers, like when you look at like the preliminary numbers compared to other SEC teams, they're not awful. Like
No.
it's not like they're hitting like 220 with like a ton of errors. They haven't been great. This has been a poor defensive team, especially for a Jay Johnson coach team. And there's been a lot of wild pitches from the staff. And like obviously, once you get like Guidry has really struggled in SEC play, and like Zach Cowan's been okay. And like once they officially lost Cooper Moore, I was like, okay, like I really don't know how we're gonna get 27 solid innings a weekend out of this staff. But yeah, it's just been like they've come up short, and then a lot of the shortcomings that we saw early in the season, losing to like the Sac States and some of the midweeks that they had, like the writing was on the wall. And we all thought that there was obviously a chance that they'd be able to turn this thing around, but it does not look like that's going to happen.
No, and it's wild because like you look at a team like Coastal where the stats say, hey, we're not that great, but they're winning baseball games. Whereas LSU is like the stats are pretty good, and they're finding ways to lose games. I mean, that's
baseball.
like the difference. Yeah, it's so hard.
No one, whoever is the preseason number 1 team in the SEC next season, like say no. No
please don't vote me number 1 next year.
Yeah,
we're not going to be good. Jared, Kansas at Kansas State, in-state rivalry. They beat them in 7 innings, 18-6. Kansas gets 17 hits. Dario Lasaria, good to see him back, going 4 for 4 with 6 RBIs. Mason Cook comes out of the bullpen going 4 2/3 for the win. Boy, there's nobody hotter than Kansas Jayhawks right now. Oh, I might have lost Jared. I don't see him anymore.
I think we did. I'm happy to talk about KU.
Let's talk about KU, man. Dude, that is 17 hits from that lineup and 4 for 4 from Dario Lasaria. Like, if they get him going again and get him healthy, this lineup has some pop. It's dangerous.
Yeah, and speaking of good coaches, Dan Fitzgerald, like
yeah.
I think, KU obviously had a lot of hype towards the end of last season, and there was a lot of preseason hype for this team. But as the season kind of started, it was like, okay, they're in the middle of the pack there in the Big 12. And now all of a sudden they are the clear front runner in this conference. Brady Ballinger has turned into the preseason All-American that we, expected from him. Guys like Osorio who have been around this program are, consistently producing. And like they're casually 15-4 in Big 12 play, a conference that has been notoriously crazy, producing these wild results every weekend. So yeah, that's an unreal tone setter, especially going on the road, in Manhattan against a rival.
Yeah, and they got superstars all over the field that like didn't start off as superstars. Tyson LeBlanc at shortstop has been one of the best in the country, not getting enough praise. Like I'm telling you, every single day we're getting closer to a regional in Lawrence, and I'm all for it. I think that it's awesome.
Crank the
yeah, I know you asked me about Kansas, and I froze. So
yeah, you froze. Welcome back. We were talking. I mean, this is a good Kansas team, and if you're not a fan of Dan Fitzgerald at this point, you are missing out because this dude can coach baseball games.
I was gonna say, like, for me, it was always West Virginia was the best team in this conference, but I think Kansas has definitely put themselves at the top of the Big 12, and I think they're the best team in this conference. We were waiting for the offense to turn it on. Like I heard you guys, even though I was frozen. Like Osoria's turned it on. Ballinger is starting to hit again. Pitching staff's always kind of been shaky for them, but like as long as the offense goes, they're going to put up enough runs. And if Dominic Vagley and a few other guys can kind of turn things around on the pitching side, like I think this Kansas team is going to be one to watch out for.
It feels like one of the toughest lineups in college baseball, 1 through 9. Like there's no guy you're like, hey, Brady Ballinger, like that's an All-American guy. But like the 1 through 9, you're like, okay, there's no like superstars here, but there's no easy outs. Like those guys all battle and they all can give you a home run at any time. Like it feels like a really tough lineup. And pitching, they've had enough. And if you're going to get Dominic Vagley to be great on Saturdays, all of a sudden you've got a really dangerous Kansas team. Like they could be really, really dangerous to make a run. Nebraska at Illinois. Jared, since you're back, I'll ask you this one here. That's a tough loss for Nebraska after coming off of a huge weekend last weekend to beat USC, and they go on the road to the Illini. We knew the Illini could hit. They've been able to hit. We've seen it. But this is a tough loss here on the road for Nebraska to start this thing out.
Yeah, I'd be curious what the weather was like in Champaign. Like, did that play any kind of a significance there? Just because like you're going into a colder area, but again, you're in Nebraska, like you should you also have that kind of weather as well. So I don't want to give him any excuse. But Cooper Katsky, like they took Ty Horn out of the rotation because he was going on Friday nights. Cooper Katsky he goes 2 2/3 innings, 2 earned, 7 runs. So it was the errors that kind of hurt Nebraska in this one.
Yeah.
They just could not claw their way back. The offense still showed up, put it up a 5 spot, but you give up 10 runs, man, and it's going to be impossible to come back. So they got a chance to win the series still. They have 2 more dominant arms that are going to follow Katsky here. So Ty Horn came out of the bullpen in this one, so he won't start, but they have a really, really good rotation outside of Katsky. So not too concerned here. I think it's a kind of a blip on the radar. It's baseball. You're not going to win every single game, but if they lose the series, then I'm a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, and this is a team that's sitting right now at second place in the Big Ten, and all of a sudden, if they lose another one, then it's really close there with the other 2 teams, like with USC and Purdue and Oregon are right on their heels. Man, it's not a good spot to lose this one. They could still win the weekend and be okay. They win the weekend, everything's fine. But if they lose another one, and all of a sudden you're like starting to question what the Big Ten is and how many teams do they get in, and it becomes this big mess. Like I still think I had Nebraska in as a host this week, and I don't know if they stay there. I mean, 2 out of 3, I keep them there, no problem, I think, but it's at the very bottom end of that list. But they're still a good baseball team, and I want to see a host there. I mean, they had 8,000 for a midweek a couple weeks ago. This is a good team. It'd be fun to have them be a host, but they got to prove it. They got to do it down the stretch here. All right, Hunter, Virginia goes to Pitt. Pitt is just showing some life. Mike Bell and this team, listen, this is a good baseball team. They've got 26 wins. Like, I like where Pitt's at. They got to figure out a way to win more ACC games down the stretch. But they score 3 in the 8th, tie the game up with the Joey Barron double, and then they take the lead on the Carter Deardoff home run. Like, huge for Pitt to go and win this thing at home against Virginia. And same question marks for Virginia as we've had. Like, sometimes they just come out flat and they just don't win road games.
Yeah, and it seems like no team in the ACC is immune from having these sort of issues. And like yesterday was a particularly crazy day in that conference. But yeah, I mean, this is good for Pitt, man. Like 26-14 now, 8-11 in the ACC. And like you look at the remaining schedule for them, you know, you obviously you have 2 more against UVA, then you go to Florida State, to North Carolina, and at home versus Notre Dame. So the opportunities are there if they can find a way to get hot again, like they were, in the middle of the year. Like they could make a push and find a way to grab that last ACC spot. I mean, you look at the conference right now, and they're at 8-11. Vatech is right above them at 10-12. NC State at 9-10. So like, if they can really find a way to get hot, and obviously Lorenzo Carrier goes yard again yesterday. He's been an amazing story for them. But yeah, I mean, 5 arms pieced together a win against a pretty good Virginia offense. It's obviously a good sign, and now you've got a chance to go win a series against a ranked opponent.
Yeah, and speaking of, another ACC one, Jared, I'll let you talk about this one. The NC State losing 0-4 at Vatech, like not a good loss for NC State. They have got to figure out a way to win on Fridays. They haven't been able to win on a Friday in a very long time. This team is struggling on Fridays, but they're also struggling on the whole weekend, and now they're under 500 in ACC play. We may see 7 or less teams in the ACC. I had it at 8. We might be getting less and less every single week as we go on. Yeah,
I struggle because like NC State's 26-15 overall. They're about 500 in conference. Like, are you leaving that kind of ACC team out of the postseason? I feel like if they can maintain 500 by the end of the year, you're probably not. But they've just had bad losses all season long, and I just don't really know what to make of this NC State team. I was going to take a look at one thing. Yeah, this is what I was looking at here. Sorry. Yeah, 52nd in RPI. That's what I was trying to pull up. So, like, that's not going to help get you into the tournament. They're 4-8 in quad 1 games. They're 3-2 in quad 2. Like, it's going to be a struggle. You can't lose a game like that to Virginia Tech because that's probably not a quad 1 game right there.
No.
So I don't know. And they've been impressive offensively, and like the pitching staff was impressive at the beginning of the year. The bullpen's just been what's killing them. Like the starting rotation has looked very good for NC State for the most part, but it's just like they just can't find a bullpen arm to get them out. And so I think that's kind of where the biggest struggle has been with them. And then on the offensive side of the ball, like they've been okay. Like they've had their couple of guys like Sherman Johnson, Luke Dixon, Everett Johnson. Like those guys have been really consistent for them, but top to bottom, it's just kind of like Dalton Bargo's been hit or miss. Ty Head, great defensively, but hasn't been the best bat all season long. So I just don't know what to make of this NC State team. We had them preseason ranked. I don't know.
It feels like the offense either scores 8 to 11 or they score 0. Like I don't understand. It's just this huge flip of a coin for them. And to me, their bubble tournament now, do I think that they have resume and probably get in because the non-conference, it's really close, but I have them in right now. But they got to win some games. I mean, and granted, I want to tip my cap to Renfro for Virginia Tech. Tremendous, unbelievable. We've seen him do it before, so it's not like that was like out of the blue. But to have him do it in this performance when Virginia Tech needed it. I mean, this is a Virginia Tech team that's trying to play their way into the tournament also. So to go out there and win a Friday night like this is massive for this team. But again, I think it's a really tough loss to not even score a run for NC State. Like they had to go out and try to push something across, and they get nothing on Friday night, which is just another exclamation point kind of on their season. And it's just rough to look at. All right, Hunter, you mentioned it earlier. I'm going to go to you about the Cal Miami because this Cal team has the offense. They've been getting hot lately. Ever since Jacob French came back, this Cal team's been really tough. Mike New, his first return back to Miami since they won a national championship there when he was a player in 1999. Very, very exciting there for Cal to go down there and win this thing. But again, Miami was right there on the cusp of being a top 25 team, and then they lose games like this. They lost game 3 against Stanford last week. Now it's back-to-back ACC losses when they were right there getting into that top 25. This Miami team is just a really big question mark for me.
Yeah, and there was the scary non-contact injury to Rob Evans. It sounds like I think he put it out there on X that he was all good. I don't know what exactly that entails, obviously, but well wishes to him. But like we talked about with Stanford, like this Cal team has not quit, and we're actually seeing results with these guys. They take the series versus Pitt, take the series versus Louisville, and now you're on the cusp of taking a series against a surging Miami team that is trying to get its way back into the conversation around the top of the ACC. And I mean, it was a gem from Oliver De La Torre. 8 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned, 7 Ks. Like, they got to Rob Evans early before he left the game. And, like, again, now you're 10-9 in ACC play, and, like, everything is right in front of you. I think it's a pretty cool story. And, like, I still – anytime we talk about the ACC and we're talking about Cal and Stanford, I'm just like, conference realignment is crazy. But I love that these West Coast teams have found a way to kind of stay in the fight, even if it's been a, rockier season in Berkeley and in Palo Alto.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to see an ACC tournament that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's going to be really interesting because I think that any of these teams could be right there in that cusp. I mean, you're talking about teams from NC State all the way down to Cal that have this opportunity to possibly do something in this tournament. Like, that's the kind of level of we're talking about. Like, I don't know, man. I'm excited for it. I think it's just going to be really a lot of fun.
Like Notre Dame is 8-14, like next, and like Clemson is at the bottom at 6-13. It's like what in the world? Like this is crazy.
Like, yeah, I don't think anybody had that one picked. I don't think you could have pulled the entire United States of people that probably don't even know who Clemson is would have not have picked them last to finish in the ACC. So very, very interesting conference. Speaking of an interesting conference, ECU beats South Florida at home 11-1, Jared. Like that's a beatdown. ECU seems to be finding themselves. Like we talked about those teams that get hot, cool, hot, make the tournament and look good. ECU's fitting that build.
Yeah, I know. I was getting tired of Cliff Godwin press conferences where he's just complaining about his team in the media. So it's nice to see them win. So maybe he's happier.
I guess, though.
Yeah, maybe he's happier during all those. But no, this team's just starting to figure themselves out. Like we talk about this conference all the time, and ECU's the tops of this conference along with UTSA. Like I think those are the two teams that probably get in for this conference. But yeah, I mean it's been fun watching this ECU team kind of pull things together. Like Ryan Towers was fantastic for them last night. 5 innings, 5 strikeouts. They had 3. The offense was clicking on all cylinders. Davin Whitaker went 4 for 4, 3 RBI. They had 3 home runs from Whitaker, from Kalinic, from Byron. So so I am really excited to see what the Pirates are doing. It seems like they're kind of rolling on all cylinders right now. And I don't think this is like a 2 or 3 seed you don't want in your conference or in your regional, I mean. So like I just think this is going to be fun to watch.
Between them and UTSA wins last night 7-3 at Tulane. Like, these are 2 tough teams. I think you're right. I think these are the 2 top teams in that conference. I think they're the 2 that get in. But there's still some opportunities out there for the rest of the American Conference. I'm excited for it. Sun Belt Conference, Southern Miss takes care of South Alabama, which South Alabama's kind of worked their way kind of towards the bubble. And they're at home here. They got to figure out a way to at least win one, I think, against Southern Miss. But a big win on the road for Southern Miss as we keep saying, hey, Southern Miss got to show us something. They go on the road and win this one in a big gritty series there. I was at the Hawaii-Oregon State game last night, so a little bit of scariness as Dax Whitney comes out of that game with some tightness. It was really interesting. He left in the middle of the at-bat. He called out the trainer. He called out Rich Dorman, and they looked at it. It didn't look terrific, but no news yet, so I don't know. I'll try to get some more information today and tomorrow, but not great to see Dax go out like that and come out in the middle of the bat in the 7th inning. He wasn't really sharp either. I mean, he gave up some home runs early to this Hawaii team. But the offense really showed up for Oregon State as they pounded 15 hits and they scored 12 runs, beating Hawaii 12-4 at home. Oregon State, they canceled the third Oregon game now, so they're not going to be there for that midweek. There's not another top 100 game for Oregon State the rest of the season, so they really need to dominate these games like that. They need to go out and win these if they want to be in the conversations for a top 8 seed. I personally don't have them in the top 8. I have them just outside that. I have them hosting, but not as a top 8 seed because of that. They just don't play anybody down the stretch here. Hunter, Oklahoma State is playing their way back into tournament play somehow. They are like a team that we thought was dead in the water 3 weeks ago. They go beat Texas Tech 16-6. The offense is rolling for Oklahoma State. And it was more impressive that Kansas went in there and beat them 2 out of 3. But this Oklahoma State team seems to have found themselves. They might be going the right direction.
Yeah, crazy box score, man. 16 runs, 15 hits, 9 runs in the 3rd inning was really all you needed to see. 3 hits for Alex Conover, 4 for Aiden Miola, 6 RBIs for him. And like you look at this conference once again, like another one where we are just like totally jam-packed in the middle. We've kind of seen like the top 4 of KU, Arizona State, West Virginia, and UCF, kind of establish themselves as the tier 1. TCU is slowly creeping back into that mix. And then you just got this hodgepodge of, like the BYUs, the Oklahoma States, the Kansas States, who are trying to find a way to jockey position to swipe one of these tournament bids. And yeah, I mean, for Oklahoma State, it's like you're 26-16 overall. You're now 9-10 in conference. Like, I don't know what the rest of the schedule looks like for them off the top of my head, but, everything to play for. If you can find a way to get high and, once tournament play rolls around and you can make some noise in the Big 12 tournament, like, there is certainly a window for one of these teams in this clump to make some noise.
Yeah, they have 6 home games left in Big 12. I think that's the biggest thing. They're so much better in Stillwater and at O'Brate than they are on the road. Like, this is a team that could really make some noise. And if they win the rest of this weekend, all of a sudden you're talking about a team that could be over, if they sweep, they're over 500. They're right there in that conversation for the tournament again. Like, this is a team that could be easily in the 35 win mark by the end of the season and put themselves as a tough 3 seed somewhere. But I don't know how many teams are going to pull out of the Big 12. But there's a lot, like we said, all the way from TCU down to 11 when you're talking about Cincinnati. Any of those teams could get in or they could fall out really fast. Like, it's kind of wild to see this tournament. I cannot wait for the next few weeks to start talking more bracketology as it's going to get insane here down the stretch. Oregon beats Penn State at home, 5-4, kind of a ho-hum game. Like, Penn State was ahead in that most of that game, and then Oregon kind of finds a way to come back and win. I will be down in Eugene for today's game for that one, so I'm excited to go see if Oregon can kind of get the offense flowing again after a huge midweek game against Oregon State, like going to win in that one. This would be a massive week for Oregon if they can go 4-0 and all of a sudden put themselves in that conversation. We saw it last year where they were 42nd in the RPI at this time, and they jumped all the way up into the top 16 and got themselves a national seed. Like, they have the same thing in front of them. They still have USC at home to finish the season, and they're at UCLA the second to last weekend. Like, they have an opportunity to put themselves in that host conversation, but they got to get right, healthy up the season. Sac State and UCLA. Jared, boy, it took everything UCLA had to come back and win this one. Like, this was a insane game. Sac State had the lead at 5-3, and like the game inning kept going. I kept looking at the scores. I'm like, is it wrong? Am I looking at this wrong? And Sac State still keeps holding on, and then they kind of just make a mistake there late, and UCLA takes advantage. But hey, it's a win for UCLA, but not a good one.
Well, it's the 1924 Sac State Hornets. They want to ruin everybody's season. They basically killed LSU, and we're like, yep, your season's over. You're not making the postseason. And now they're like, oh, let's see if we can do it to UCLA and make sure that they're not the number 1 team all season long. Because UCLA's been the number 1 team all season long. Like, if Sac State was able to get a win or like won a series against them, next thing you know, UCLA's not the number 1 team probably. So no, we've kind of seen this from UCLA on a couple of Friday nights, right? The Rutgers game as well. That Logan Redeman really kind of took them into that game against Rutgers where they played 18 innings and the offense just couldn't get anything going. Ethan Lay has been great, though, for Sac State all year long. Like, Ethan Lay has dominated for Sac State. He's been one of the most underrated mid-major arms. I don't think he'll be a mid-major arm next year if we're talking transfer portal and things like that. But he goes 6 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned, 6
He may be
K.
at UCLA.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, I think you've got to be really like he's been just a ton of fun to watch for the Hornets. He's pitched really well. I think Peyton covered him in one of his draft stock talks, and like with Ethan Lay is on the rise, and so he's just been really good this year. But again, UCLA finds a way to win. Like they just do. They were able to pull it off in this one. So yeah, they're the number 1 team.
I implore anybody who has not seen the final play of that game to go to UCLA Baseball's Twitter and just revel in the brutality that is the multitude of mistakes that Sac State made on defense. Like, it is just like, it's brutal, man. It's like it is classic. Like, oh my God, like we're gonna beat the number 1 team, and like don't do anything stupid. 2 outs, just need 1. It's brutal, man.
It was like a car crash where you want to, like, you close your eyes, be like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to see what's happening. Oh my God, it's happening. And then you're like, please stop. Just don't. Oh, like, that's the feeling you guys are going to have when you go watch this. It was that kind of feel. It's like, oh no, this didn't just happen. All right, Hunter, who looked good this weekend so far? Who's the team that you're like, all right, that's what we wanted to see, or that's the team that's been really good now?
Yeah, we talked about him at the top of the show, but Tennessee, man, like like I said, I think I'm back in on the Vols. Like, you know, we have a consistent rotation and you have a couple of arms. The deeper you get into that bullpen, the less confident I get for sure. But, you know, with Mack, Coons, and Blanco, and Appenzeller, and Arvidsson, like, those are 5 arms that I feel comfortable with them taking into the postseason and, you know, pitching a bulk of the innings. A lot of these guys that we thought were going to be key pieces for them that struggled at the beginning of SEC play are starting to turn it around. And, you know, they have struggled at home at times this season. And, you know, after the way they looked on Thursday night in game 1 against Bama, I thought we were heading for another one of these like classic, like throw it away weekends, but they dominate this doubleheader in game 2 and game 3, take a big series, you know, kind of alleviates some of the pressure for the rest of the season because it's going to be tough. You know, they're going to go to Lexington next weekend and face a UK team that is in like dire straits, is in absolute need of a big weekend. So, you know, everything to play for this Josh Elander team. As, you know, crazy as it's been, as many brutal losses as they've taken, you know, with the season slowly reaching the end, like, they're playing some pretty good baseball right now.
I like that. Yeah, and we didn't mention, but Kentucky did lose at South Carolina 9-10. Another brutal loss for Kentucky. They've got to find.
I'll have more on them in a minute.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Who looked good, Jared?
Auburn. I love this Auburn team. What my dream matchups in the College World Series, like not even a final, but like having Texas versus Auburn, these pitching staffs, watching them go at it. We've mentioned it, like the Auburn bats are starting to kind of turn it around. Chris Rembert's been fantastic for them. Eric Guavar's been fantastic for them. A bunch of other guys. So like, I really love this Auburn team and the pitching staff. And it's like Abe Alvarez has been phenomenal. Like, he started as a Tuesday guy. Now, next thing you know, he's kind of throwing on a Friday night. And so you have him, Marciano. Like, I just really love what I'm seeing from this Auburn team.
Yeah, I mean, they're right up there with the best pitching staffs in the country. I mean, you could put them with when Oregon State's healthy, they're right there. Florida State, when they're healthy, like, they're right there. Texas, like, those are the 4 that I think about when I think about the best complete full weekend rotations. And I think Auburn might have a step above them because Sanders is that 4th guy. It's like all of a sudden you're talking about 4 ridiculous arms you could go to. I mean, that's what a Butch Thompson team would do, and that's a team that could be really dangerous, especially if that offense gets going. They haven't even reached their potential, so I like that.
Having that depth in like a regional and College World Series format.
Like, yeah, like that's, I mean, being able to go to, and if any of the guys stumble, you're like, okay, doesn't matter. We got other guys that we can pull in and throw. So I think that's huge. I'm staying on the Kansas bandwagon. I've said it, you know, I've been on them for a long time, most of the season. This team just continues to hit and find ways to win. Dan Fitzgerald has been like, if he's not up for Coach of the Year, then people on voting on this are doing a poor job, because what they've done this season, the second half, has been unbelievable. One of the hottest teams in the country. Also, Gonzaga. I want to say the Gonzaga Bulldogs, like, they have the longest winning streak in D1 baseball right now at 12, and they continue to find ways to win. So good on the Gonzaga Bulldogs as they are dominating WCC play. Hunter, who didn't look good? I think I know your answer now.
Yeah, we got to talk about Kentucky, man. I don't I feel like this has kind of flown under the radar a little bit, especially from like an SEC storyline perspective. So we're now looking at 26-14, 8-11 in SEC play. Does not sound horrendous, when just looking at it, but they are now in danger of dropping a 6th consecutive SEC series after sweeping Bama to open SEC play. And if they lose a second game to South Carolina, that'll include a series loss to Mizzou at home, South Carolina, and Vandy. Like, that is not good. That is not going to cut it. I've some numbers from the game last night. They left 12 on, 4 for 20 with runners in scoring position, just 1 2-out hit. Like, it's not going to get it done. And like the pitching situation is bad. They're really having to lean on Jackson Jelkin. And this is a guy who has barely pitched the previous 2 seasons. And I just think as this season is wearing on, we're kind of seeing him fade a little bit. He's still able to give them, some good length, but you're asking a lot of a guy who has not been on the mound a whole lot. I still, the whole Ben Cleaver situation has been really, weird. Just the fact that he has not been able to go deep into games. Nate Harris has popped up on the injury report a couple times now. Niall Adcock kind of feels like the only reliable bullpen arm that they have. And other than that, it's kind of just like throw what you can at the wall, see what sticks. And yeah, man, like props to South Carolina for keeping up the fight under Monty Lee. And, but there's no reason that UK should drop another series to a team that on paper they are clearly better than, but at this point, I'm not totally sure that they are.
I'm not sure. I'm not sold. I mean, this is the South Carolina team that's now tied with LSU. So, I mean, we could say that. I mean, the South Carolina team continues to fight. I'll go into it later, but I really think that Monty Lee should get an opportunity at this job. I mean, what he keeps doing every time he gets the interim spot, like just give him the job already, I think. But hey, it's not my job. I'm not the one hiring. I just like that he does a tremendous job of getting these guys to battle. Jared, who has not looked great?
So this one's tough, and I probably shouldn't pick this team, but I'm going to, is Virginia. They barely won that series against Clemson. They lose this night against Pittsburgh. The big thing is they don't have Eric Becker and AJ Gracia, right? They lost Becker all of the Clemson series. And then Gracia, I think after game 1 was out for the rest of the series. So again, those guys will probably be back and they'll be kind of hitting on all cylinders, but I've always been kind of worried about the Virginia pitching staff and like, are they going to be able to carry them? Like Kyle Johnson's been great since he's been back and healthy, but the bullpen hasn't been fantastic. They got a team ERA of 4.81, and the bats have hit the 282 overall. They've been supplying the power between Gracia and Sam Harris, but and then now Harrison Didowick's starting to hit bombs and he's starting to look like his old self. So the lineup's definitely performing for Virginia. I just like they've kind of hit a little bit of a speed bump here. Even though they won the series against Clemson, they could have lost. They could have almost got swept that series when I was watching that entire thing. So they're just a team I'm worried about. I think they're still, again, postseason team. I think they're still a top 15 team in the country, probably going to host a regional. But I wonder is like, how healthy are Becker and Gracia, and if they do come back, like, are they going to get the same top tier performance that they're going to get from them? So, just something to monitor, not necessarily something like I'm super concerned about.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same direction with Oklahoma. Listen, it's not been great for them lately, and when you're losing Mercurius starts, like this is not great. He's been up and down. Now you need Cam Johnson. Like, I don't see them really competing with Auburn. But here's their next 3 series. They are at home against Florida, at Arkansas, and then at home against Tennessee. Like, this is not the easiest schedule down the stretch. There's a way where they don't win 13 games. I mean, honestly, there's a chance that they don't get to 13 wins now. When you look at it, those are 3 tough series coming up, and you're facing some of the best, like, hottest teams in the country. That's tough for Oklahoma. I think that they got to figure out a way. I think that they probably do get to 13, but I don't know if 13 gets them in the tournament necessarily, because it's not really the hot, cold, hot that we like to see. They're kind of gone hot, medium, and now to cold. That's not the right direction if you're a tournament team. So final thoughts, Hunter, as we end up this show and get ready for the rest of the weekend?
Mike's muted. It's crunch time. We're going to start to see some of these conference races, come into play. Conferences like the ACC and the Big 12 that have these log jams in the middle, like who is going to find their way into the upper echelon of these leagues? Is anyone going to do it? I have a feeling that a lot of these conference tournaments are going to play a pretty big factor into some of these final decisions for some of these bubble teams. And in the SEC, I'm excited to see this Georgia Ole Miss series kick off. Two of the heavyweights in this league, and then Liam Peterson versus the Texas A&M offense is another thing that is certainly on my radar today.
Love it. Can't wait, man. So much good games today. Jared, final thoughts?
Yeah, kind of the same as Hunter. We're in the final stretch here. We're about to approach May, get into a conference tourney season. This is where you either got to figure it out or no.
Yeah, it's coming down to it. Can't wait. Folks, go enjoy some college baseball. We're getting down to it, right? Only 4 weeks left in the regular season here. I'll be down at PK Park in Eugene, so if you guys are down there, come say hi. Can't wait to go watch some baseball. For Jared and Hunter and myself, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys live on the Monday Night Show for the Top 25.